Today I review Free Comic Book Days, Steve Rogers' Captain America, Batman issue 52, and Spider-Woman issue 6. Hello and welcome to the show with reviews. I'm Auram, and today we're going to be reviewing 3 comics just like we do every week on this show, so let's get started. First up is Free Comic Book Days, Steve Rogers' Captain America, written by Nick Spencer with art by Jesus. To be clear here, the Steve Rogers' Captain America issue did have 2 stories. There was a Spider-Man story in the back of it. I'm only reviewing the Captain America story here. Overall, this was a great kind of lead-in to Steve Rogers' new series. He's back in the blue and everything. It's great. They're introducing his kind of cast of characters that's going to be in that book, along with Sharon Carter, Rick Jones, all that stuff, and kind of the villain that they need to take down, and I guess kind of the first story arc that they're doing. Speaking of that, I was a little confused on where Sharon Carter stands in all of this. I know Steve is young, and at the end of his last run, Sharon was also old. She didn't get super soldier serum sapped out of her or anything, but it's a long story. She was old, so I guess it just didn't dawn on me that she's still old, and it was kind of confusing here because she was still doing everything that she was doing in the past, and she's still wearing her old costume, so it was just a little confusing, but I'm 99% sure that she's still old, but Steve is young again. I guess the art kind of confused me on that too. Maybe it'll be a little more clear. Taking a second look at the cover of the first issue of Steve Rogers' Captain America, I can tell that, yeah, she does kind of have some wrinkles going on there, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was just confusion, that there wasn't supposed to be confusion. It was just me creating my own confusion, but we'll see. Also, I love how Cap just needs to live in some kind of war in some capacity. Like, at the end of this issue, he's literally saying that the government needs to claim war on Hydra. He's just a soldier, and that's the way that he lives. He needs to be in a war. He needs to be able to fight against a very obvious common enemy. And I think that's just a testament to his character and something that maybe Nick Spencer is going to dive into and deal with in Steve Rogers' Captain America. I really hope they don't just brush it under the rug as just kind of this kickoff for the series. Definitely check it out when it comes out, though. I think it comes out in a couple weeks. It seems very promising. Next up is Batman issue 52, written by James Tynion with art by Riley Rossmo. I'm not entirely sure what to make of this book. It's not really setting anything up for future series, but it's also not completely concluding anything. For those unaware, this is the last issue of the run on Batman that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo started way back in 2011 after the New 52. It's concluding here, and Tom King is going to take over with a bunch of other Bat books coming out, but this is the once and for all conclusion, and it really doesn't feel like that. Like I said in my review of the last issue, issue 51, that felt like a logical and complete conclusion to the story, and I almost feel like Scott Snyder was like, this is my story, this is it, I'm done, and that's why he's not writing this last issue. And it's just confusing to me, because I feel like DC didn't want this to be complete setup for the next story. They wanted to conclude this and have it be self-contained, but Scott Snyder had already finished it, but they also wanted that last 52nd issue, so it's just, I don't know, so there's some mess going on here. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that we're not aware of. It wasn't a bad issue by any means. I was just confused because I read the last issue and was like, oh, this is the conclusion to Scott Snyder's story, but then this issue is the actual conclusion to Scott Snyder's story in terms of editorial. So I don't know what to believe here. Maybe Batman's specific Rebirth one-shot will kind of explain more of what was going on here. I mean, honestly, it's a self-contained story. There's not much to explain. That's, like I said, nothing's being set up here that I can tell. I guess it was just, they really wanted that 52nd issue. So I guess if you are binging Scott Snyder's Batman, just stop at issue 51, don't go any further. Just continue on to wherever you were gonna go next, or if you really want to read that 52nd issue, just don't treat it as a conclusion to this series. The 51st issue is the proper conclusion to Scott Snyder's Batman. And finally is Spider-Woman issue 6, written by Dennis Hopeless with art by Joelle Jones. I know this issue came out like 2 weeks ago or something, but I wanted to talk about it, okay? So calm down. I am really loving Spider-Woman so far. It's kind of hit or miss with some of the plot points that they're introducing here, but I'm just loving the relationships between the characters and all of that, and of course, I love Spider-Woman, so there's nothing that they could really do wrong here. I mean, it's a team-up of all three of them, and it's a good time. But really what I wanted to talk about with this specific issue of Spider-Woman was the art change. The normal artist, Javier Rodriguez, is not a bad artist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just getting kind of sick of his art style. It's a very specific kind of webcomic-y art style, and sometimes his faces aren't the best, but it's a fine art style in general. But this art in this book, I fell in love with instantly. I just think it fits the tone of Jess much better, and just overall is, in my opinion, a better art style. It just pleases me more than Javier Rodriguez's art does. And again, that's not to say he's a bad artist, it's just different taste, I guess. Sadly, it looks like Jones is only staying on for one more issue of this, but either way, I'm super excited for the rest of this series. I mean, it's Spider-Woman, I don't care who draws it. Greg Land drew it for the first 3 issues of her last series, and I was totally fine with it. Please don't start a war about Greg Land in the comments, though. I don't want to deal with that. But yeah, those are all the reviews that I got for you this week. Be sure to let me know what you thought about the comics that you read this week, or just what you thought about the books that I pulled. And of course, before you head out, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything that I upload every other Wednesday and every Saturday. Keep an eye out, Retcon is launching soon, so yeah, stay tuned. That all being said though, thank you so much for watching. Next time, I myself go to Marvel's universe and just become, in theory, one of the most powerful characters in existence, because with my knowledge, I could tear down cities.